Greetings, good afternoon, or maybe good morning where you are. Thank you for joining us on our podcast with Diversity Business Incubator. I'm Jabo Butera. I am the current Managing Director of Diversity Business Incubator, and today I'm going to be your host. We're going to be having this conversation together to talk about businesses, to talk about ideas around businesses, to talk about what are the challenges about starting a business, or have you ever thought of starting a business? Maybe here you'll get a chance to get that thought a bit further down. That's the purpose of this conversation today. So today we're going to spend the next half an hour together. We'll talk around the sphere about starting your own businesses. The conversation will be around, again, element of business, as well as element of humanity, as well as element of reality of every day. You'll be hearing from myself with the experience of I've run businesses for the past 12, 15 years. I've seen quite a lot of ups and downs. I've seen the challenges, and yet I can still conclude there's nothing exciting like running your own business. It is challenging, but it's beautiful. It's wonderful. It's exciting. It's every morning you are ready up to go for another day. You're going to hear from our guest today as well. I'll leave it as a surprise for you, but you're also available to ask a question. You can drop us a question. You can drop us a comment. You can drop us ideas. So again, this conversation is around business, how to start your own businesses. Have you ever thought about starting your own businesses? And hearing from individuals who are running their own businesses, how did they do it? Can you be inspired by it? And while in the meantime we're here, you can start your own business if you haven't started. It's not too late. It might be getting late. So without further ado, let me bring on my guest of today, and we can have this conversation and continue together. Let me welcome Ben. Ben, welcome.
Hello, hi Jabba. Hello, everybody.
Thank you for having for joining us on this conversation today. As I was saying in the greeting, it might be morning somewhere else. Those who are watching us online, it might be late night somewhere else. So we're saying greetings to everyone. For us, we are in a sunny Plymouth today.
We are. Makes a change.
It's for a change. It's wonderful and nice and sunny today. Although we haven't been out to enjoy much the sun, we've been stuck in with work, and that's the element we're going to be talking about. It's work, but it's business. It's what they call own business, your own business, your own work. You create that work yourself. And I was telling those listening to us, this is an opportunity maybe to learn from one or two people who have walked that walk, but as well as to be inspired from it. So let me ask you the first question, Ben. And I was telling we're going to be about half an hour, so people will be listening to us not too long. So let me start with the first question, which is straightforward. We've seen your name is Ben, so if you tell us your full name and what do you do? What is your business?
Hi, yeah, my full name is Ben Selby, and the business name is the very imaginatively named Ben Selby Counselling. So I do counselling and psychotherapy in Plymouth and the local area.
Ben Selby Counselling.
Counselling, yeah.
Wow, that's interesting, because it's a sphere, or it's an industry. Sometimes individuals think, how can you do business in that? Where's the business in that? Because it's not like you are selling a product. It's not like someone who's selling a bottle of water. How does it go?
There's unfortunately there's a huge pressure on mental health services within the NHS. So the business model, I guess, is to provide those services privately, as a lot of people do in and around Plymouth, and just be able to provide that space for people to go and talk if they need to. Obviously there has to be some exchange of money, and that brings with it rents and insurances and all that sort of stuff. But not everybody sees it as a business, but it's got to operate to a business model.
Fantastic. Well, you're a successful business person. We've had a chance to have a conversation. And since when did you start this business? Or when did you start this business? Is this one you're running at the moment? But the other question is, when did you think about starting your own business?
I started this one. I've had a business previously, in a different kind of life. I had a taxi business back at home, which unfortunately failed. That was, I don't know, 30 years ago. With this one, I started probably about 8 or 9 years ago. I found myself between jobs, and there are very few paid therapy jobs in or around Plymouth, and so I started the business. This mental health services have fascinated me for a long time. Ability to talk to people and find out about people has fascinated me for a long time, and so I took a chance and started about 8 or 9 years ago, and it's been fascinating.
I can tell it has been fascinating. You'll touch on something, but we'll come back on it as we go in further down with your previous business. So someone might ask themselves, did you think about this many years ago, or when you were younger, when you were a dreamer on a young age? Were you dreaming one day I'll have a counseling business?
No, not at all. I came to it, I think most people come to counseling later in life. Part of my journey was for various private reasons, was seeing a counsellor of my own who recognized some of the hidden strengths that I'd long ignored. I'm a good listener, apparently. I have a particular way with people, and I'd spent 10 years as working with my taxi, actually doing what I do now, listening to people, not advising, etc. This was around about the same time as I had an opportunity to revisit education, and so I jumped on I jumped on that opportunity and studied psychology at university, which is why I'm in Plymouth, kind of stuck here since doing my degree. Studied psychology and then took the necessary qualifications to become a counsellor.
Wow, so you studied psychology at University of Plymouth?
Yes. Yes.
Well, there's something you just touched there as well, Ben. You mentioned about the previous job you're doing as a taxi driver, and what the most of taxi driver they're doing is listening.
Listening to customers and making sure that you don't give them advice, or because if Mrs. Smith is telling you how rotten her husband's been to her, you can guarantee if you tell her, leave him or do whatever, you can guarantee the next customer you have is Mr. Smith, and it's that doesn't always work out so well. So it's about listening and not advising, but just being there and giving support, offering support.
Yeah, wow, fantastic. Well, we're trying to know more about you so people can know more about you as well. If someone listening to us wants to understand the importance not only of starting their own business, but the element of counseling, what would you say to them?
I think one of the things you asked me a question earlier on, had I always dreamed of being a counsellor, and I hadn't, but I had always dreamed of having something, working for myself. I was always very unsure what. To answer this question, I think one of the things that I recognise about not being more proactive in finding those niches that are available is very often a lack of confidence, and certainly that's something that can be helped with counselling, confidence, and teasing out some of those ideas that are hidden and often buried. teasing out some of those life skills that perhaps we've neglected over the years.
Well, you just touching on the element we talked about. So you see, for us, as we're a business incubator supporting individuals want to start their own businesses, and you just mentioned about it, sometimes it can be that lack of confidence. It might be that past history. It might be many things, and you just need someone to help you teasing those elements out. So you see now, counseling and business are going together.
Yeah.
An individual will not see that. They might end up drop that dream because of certain elements which could be looked after by someone from a counseling. So for those who are listening to us, we say this conversation is more to inspire other people. What would you say to an individual who's feeling like, I have a lot of barriers to start the business compared to a lot of opportunities? There is a more crisis than opportunities.
I think to be able to establish what those crises, what the barriers are, obviously there can be a lot out in the world, lack of money, lack of finance, lack of opportunity, but actually the barriers, we create so many barriers within, that lack of confidence, that lack of belief in ourselves, but I can give you an example of somebody that I worked with recently. The mum and dad, they'd get an A, and mum and dad would say, "Oh yeah, okay, why didn't you get an A plus?" And the way they perceived that was, "I'm not good enough." And we've kind of worked through those processes, and they actually understand now that mum and dad were trying to encourage, but it just left them with a lack of self-belief. And that can be one of the biggest barriers. I think, for myself, as I say, I had a business years ago, and for all sorts of reasons, it failed. And the lack of self-confidence that brought with it, I didn't want to leap back in. It was all too much. And then I had some counselling, and it changed some of that.
So someone asked a question earlier on saying a failure in business or a fear of failure in business, is it a stumbling block or is it a stepping stone?
I think it can be both. I think if we can identify that fear, I think it's important to understand why we feel, why we have emotions, and those emotions are trying to guide us. However, very often we get we can have quite irrational emotions, and I think is it advantageous or is it a stepping stone? Fear of failure is certainly advantageous when it comes to budgeting. We're not going to go wild, especially not in the early days. But yes, it can hold you back, of course, because you've got to start somewhere, and fear of failure can often prevent us starting.
Wow. Thank you very much for answering those questions. I was just looking at the time; we're already halfway through the conversation, and it feels we just started. So, a typical day for someone who's doing a business in counseling, what would that be?
I might not be the best person to ask because I tend to probably do too much. A typical day is a lot of people work from home. As you can see, I prefer to separate my home life and my work life, so I rent an office. But a typical day for me, I think, is turn up, check emails, check social media, all of the type of stuff that is required to know exactly what the day has for you. And then for me, ideally, I see 4 or 5 clients in that day. So I see a client for an hour, and then try to have a break for a good half an hour in between each client, so that I'm fresh for each new client. It sometimes works like that, and sometimes it doesn't.
Yeah. So the angle I'm trying to reach on here is that balance, saying, comparing someone who has a shopkeeper or a shop owner, sorry, not a shopkeeper, shop owner, compared to someone who's in the counseling. There's not much of difference. You all have that drive to give a better service.
Yes, we do. I think we have that drive to be available. A shop owner very often is required to work certain hours or limited in those hours. I try to keep to similar hours, but I'm also aware that most of the people that are able to afford my service are also in those hours, so I have to work beyond those regular hours. But we're all trying to provide the best service we can for our people.
Yeah. So you mentioned about a money exchange or return on your service, which is that business element look at, and that's most people don't pay attention onto. Being present or being that ear of listening, plus the qualification and all the skills needed to be able to give information back or supporting that individual to go a better direction. I think it takes a lot of energy from you.
It does.
Yeah.
I trained to reach the educational status that I have. I trained for, if you include my degree, 10 years. So that's part-time. It's not full-time training. The degree was full-time. The rest of it is part-time. But I've trained for 10 years to reach where I am. And I belong to a professional body, the British Association for Counselling and Psychotherapy. They also have a requirement that I continue my professional development. So that training never actually stops. We have a requirement to do a minimum amount of training, further training every year.
Wow. So the other angle of conversation I wanted us to go into is this culture or habits of individuals. So I'll talk, for example, individuals from the community I come from, the Black community, the Asian communities, where sometimes you tend to look after your external appearance to cover the internal.
Mm-hmm.
And you're finding you are spending more efforts in covering up the internal instead of approaching that internal and dealing with it. Do you see much of that culture challenge within that industry? It's starting from the clients you receive to your colleagues and other member of that body you work with.
I think that's a phenomenon that goes across all cultures. And Rogers, one of the forefathers of psychotherapy and counselling, talks about an externalized locus of evaluation. That idea that if we can have a 4-bedroom house and a BMW and shows everybody that I'm doing all right, but actually can be in turmoil inside. So that goes across all cultures, I think. And yes, we see. I see a lot of it. The idea of counselling and psychotherapy is to be able to put down that externalized locus of evaluation and internalize it and know that in here everything's okay.
Yeah.
And out there we do what we can. We most of us need to have a house and to have a car and to because that's what anxiety expects. It doesn't need to be the best.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for that advice. Again, for those who want to reach out to Ben, there's the contact details how you can reach to him. Ben is a professional counselor. He's got all the backup and everything needed, and experience 10 years in this industry. And we just touch on this element of especially individuals you feel like, yes, externally I demonstrate I'm all well, but in there something might not be going well. Reach out, because what we are trying is finding the next generation of healthy, wealthy entrepreneurs. There's no point of having a wealthy entrepreneur who's not healthy. We're talking about healthy internally. That's what you just mentioned, Ben. So with this conversation, our aim is to starting teasing out, as you said, teasing out that way of thinking differently. That's way of thinking which will help you to go further up. Because the aim is to get that next generation of successful entrepreneurs covering the whole communities. And I really, really thank you for that intel. Now, let me pick on another question which came in earlier on. Someone was mentioning a business owner or previous contemporary, the way people were thinking, a shrewd business owner is the one who's, how can I say, tough, don't care much, just have to get it down, get it started, compared to the emotional intelligence or emotional connections of today's society. And looking specifically with this COVID situation we've been through. Do you think the entrepreneurs, the next entrepreneur, the future entrepreneurs, or even the current entrepreneurs, should they consider that emotional well-being as a high priority as well?
I think it's imperative that people consider their emotional well-being before anything else, really. You wouldn't go to work if you had the flu. You wouldn't go to work if you were physically unwell. And when we're emotionally or mentally unwell, I think we make rash decisions and we put in a poorer work performance. I think you couple that also, I'm aware that some of those new entrepreneurs are going to go on and invest in a workforce and to have some sort of pastoral responsibility for the workforce and to make sure that the workforce is okay. Again, I think that's hugely important. A lot of companies now, a lot of the larger companies actually use what's called EAP services, employee assisted programs, for the pastoral care for their employees. And I think even smaller businesses are able to buy into those programs. It doesn't all need to come out of the pocket of the businessman directly.
Yeah, you see, there's that support existing, and this is offered to everyone. And again, that's why we're having this conversation, signposting or letting people know about services available or opportunities available, or this what can help you to grow in your businesses. And you just mentioned about this scheme, which is, sometimes it seems like it's the large organization with enough resources, with a full human resource department to look after that benefit from there, while the Bob from the corner shop struggles because he's only one person doing all of it, and he forgets his emotional well-being. What would you say to such entrepreneurs who are saying, I've got a lot, I won't have time for counseling, or stop and listening, or stop or offloading?
I think what I'd say to them, most counsellors can be quite flexible. We can, we do work outside the hours of other people. We can, that investment, I think, look upon counselling as an investment, look upon psychotherapy as an investment, and, along with the rest of your business, we have to invest to watch our businesses grow and to flourish. And I think the investment in, that lonely shop owner, to be able to say, actually, I'm going to spend a little bit of time investing in me. Self-care is hugely important, and I think it's one of the first things we so often neglect.
I hope they hear what you are saying, and I hope people will be taking this in forefront on what they're doing. Everything that element of emotional well-being is needed,
Yeah,
and Ben is there to. So a professional is telling you that. So for you listening, this is time to reset the button, especially with this pandemic we've been through. You had a chance to press stop on most of things, and that's time to come back looking at the well-being of each individuals. So we've been talking about counseling, we've been talking about tough stuff, and let's talk about funny stuff as well now. So it's the well-being as well.
It's well-being. Good.
Apart from work, how do you unwind? How do you spend your day as an entrepreneur, as a business owner? 10 years in businesses. How do you have fun?
For me, I talked earlier on about the breakdown of my day, so it's an hour on, a half hour off. Very often, that half hour off, when I'm not sitting here talking to you, is I walk. I work in an amazing place at the Millfields, and I get lots of exercise. I think it's also important to. I really enjoy silence, and I use that silence to meditate very often between clients to ensure that I've put one client down before seeing the next one, because otherwise it all gets blurred. So I meditate a lot, and I think that can be so important for the soul.
Yeah. So it's that element. I remember the conversation with my wife, and she was saying that me time. You need to have the me time.
Absolutely.
Yes, it's a really interesting to have a me time, and that's something everyone will have to build into, so that they can create that me time in their life. Wow. So as time is going fast, I'm just wondering if I continue in that profession. My head is already thinking too much, and I'm like, counseling, we could do A, B, C, D. I'm like, unfortunately, time is not on our side, but Ben is available, and we're always gonna have him back in our conversation in the future. And we're all, both of us, we're based in the Millfield, although today I work from home. One thing you could tell those listening, and in two brackets: one, someone who want to start their own businesses, or who are thinking about starting their businesses, what will be the encouraging word you will say to them? Two, the sector or the industry you're working in, and especially to the young demographic, what would you say to them so that they can be inspired to come into that industry?
Certainly, to answer your first question, if you want to start your own business, go out and do it. Plan. Have an idea in your head, but do something that you're passionate about, and go out and do it. It's the most exciting journey. Not everybody will make it this time round, but if you don't make it this time round, you learn so that next time you succeed, and it's an amazing journey. As for the younger people that want to come into this, when it feels like the right time, there are a multitude of courses out there. It starts with a level 2. Just go and give it a go and see if you enjoy it. It's not for everybody, but it's I absolutely love this trade, if you like, and I think you've got to be passionate about something to still doing it after 19 years.
Yes, that's a really, really good summarize. You have to be passionate about something. It's your passion you need to be expressing. It's not the chasing of the outcome.
If you enjoy your work, if you enjoy your job, you never need to go to work again.
Yeah, that's really good. That's wonderful to finish with that one. So let me say thank you to you very much, Ben, for the wonderful time we've had together. Our half an hour has gone, and it has been a really great pleasure. And I hope we'll have this chance again to communicate and to have you on our show. For everyone, that's Ben Selby from Ben Selby Consultants. and you can always get in touch with them through our social media as well, and we can signpost you to them.
Ben Selby Counselling.
Ben, yeah, I say consulting.
Joe, thank you very much. Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak today. It's lovely to meet you.
Thank you very much, and take care.
Take care.